Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The clock above the fireplace read 9:07 p.m. Our dinner reservation was at 7. I sat by the window in our quiet Denver home, blazer on, holding a bouquet of white tulips, her favorite. Outside, the last light of evening faded behind the mountains. Inside, silence reigned. Not peaceful silence, the kind that rings in your ears. Then, slam. The front door burst open like she was escaping something, not coming home. Rachel swept in with the wind, dropping her oversized leather bag onto the hallway bench like it had personally offended her. Her heels clicked across the hardwood as she passed by me without a glance. "Don't start," she muttered, peeling off her coat. "Rachel." I stood slowly, voice low. "It's our anniversary." She scoffed, hands running through her hair. "You think I forgot?" I didn't say that. I held up the bouquet, still hopeful. "We had a reservation. You didn't call." She finally turned, her eyes tired, sharp. I got held up. Mitchell dumped a pile of end-of-quarter reports on my desk last minute. Mitchell, her sister's husband, her boss. The name hit harder than it should have. "I understand," I said gently, stepping closer. "But you could have texted." She exhaled sharply, almost laughing. "I didn't realize I needed your permission to stay late at work. That's not what I meant. I was just worried, and I thought maybe we could still catch dessert." Her head snapped toward me like I'd insulted her. "Are you serious right now? I just worked 10 hours straight, and you're guilt-tripping me over dinner?" I blinked. "I'm not guilt-tripping you, Ratch. I'm trying to salvage the night." She crossed her arms, glaring. "No, you're making me feel like I ruined everything. Like I should have been standing here in heels and a dress, waiting to be whisked away like some rom-com character." "I didn't say that, but you're thinking it." "No, I paused, then quietly set the flowers on the console. "I just missed you tonight." Her jaw tightened. "Well, maybe don't build your whole evening around a fantasy version of me. I'm exhausted, Daniel." My throat tightened. "So am I." We stood there, facing each other like two strangers who used to share a life. Then she turned, muttering under her breath, "Unbelievable," and stormed down the hall. A door slammed. I stayed standing in that hallway, the cold bouquet in the corner of my vision, wondering how a night that was supposed to be about love turned into whatever this was. Funny thing is, my life wasn't loud or dramatic. I'm Daniel Mercer, 39, mid-level project manager at a logistics firm in downtown Denver. I like my routines, morning jogs, Sunday pancakes, crossword puzzles after dinner. I keep our yard trimmed and my desk organized. Nothing flashy. Just steady, predictable, safe. But that night shattered something quiet and sacred. And I couldn't help but feel it wasn't just about the dinner. It was about something much deeper and much colder, something that had already started slipping through the cracks. 3 days passed. She never brought up our anniversary. Not a word about the ruined night. The tulips wilted quietly in the kitchen trash. And I didn't press it. Something about her silence told me she'd already rewritten the story in her head. And I was the villain. It was late Wednesday when my phone buzzed. Almost 10 p.m. I was on the couch, half watching a nature documentary, laptop open on my lap, spreadsheets glowing dimly. The call lit up the screen. "Rachel, work." I answered on the second ring. "Hey." Her voice was clipped. "Don't wait up. I've got to stay overnight. Audit week. We're behind." "You're staying at the office?" "Yes, Daniel. Mitchell wants all quarterly expenses finalized by tomorrow morning. I can't argue with the man who signs my checks." Something about the way she said Mitchell didn't sit right. Too familiar. Too easy. I leaned back against the cushions, kept my tone calm. "You want me to bring you dinner or something?" "No," she snapped, then softened. "No, thanks. I already grabbed something." "All right," I said quietly, letting a pause hang between us. "You sure you're okay?" Another pause. Then, "I'm fine. Bye." The line went dead. I sat there a minute longer, phone still pressed to my ear even though the call had ended. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was the sudden tension in her voice. Maybe it was the memory of her brushing past me 3 nights ago like I was a stranger in my own home. Maybe it was the fact that I'd never once doubted her in our 10 years together. And suddenly, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I grabbed my coat and keys, locked the door behind me, and drove downtown. It was cold. That kind of Colorado cold that made the city look polished but hollow. Downtown Denver's office district was mostly dark, save for a few high-rises still lit like lonely lighthouses. Rachel's firm, Everson and Carter Capital, was one of them. Sleek, glassy, 5 stories of money and marble and whispers behind tinted glass. I pulled up and saw it immediately. Her silver Volvo, parked near the entrance. I didn't call, didn't text, just sat there in the quiet hum of my idling car, watching. After 15 minutes, the front doors opened. She walked out slowly, adjusting her scarf, then glanced at her phone. Didn't notice me at first. I got out and leaned against the hood of my car. When she finally spotted me, she froze. "Daniel," she called out, her voice rising with confusion and something else. Irritation. "Hey." I kept my tone light. "Figured I'd drive you home. This part of town gets sketchy this late." Her brows furrowed. "I told you I was staying at the office. You can work from home tomorrow. Come sleep in your own bed." "I can't. I need my car, and I've got files to review." I nodded slowly, then gestured toward the Volvo. "Then leave it here. I'll drop you off in the morning." She folded her arms. "You don't need to do that." "I know." Silence stretched between us like a live wire. She looked down at her heels, then back at the building behind her. "Rachel," I said gently, "get in the car." She hesitated, then finally sighed and walked around to the passenger side. The ride home was quiet. Streetlights flicked past the windshield, casting long bars of yellow light across her face. She stared out the window, jaw tight, arms crossed. I glanced at her briefly. "I'll drop you off tomorrow." She didn't respond. I turned back to the road, letting the silence settle in. But her reflection in the window told me everything. Tense shoulders, clenched jaw, lips pressed into a line. She wasn't just tired. She was hiding something. And now, for the first time in a long time, so was I. The next morning was gray and overcast, sky full of frost, streets still slick from an early snow. I made coffee for 2 out of habit, but Rachel didn't touch hers. She came downstairs already dressed in black slacks and a stiff blouse, barely glancing my way. No makeup, hair pulled back in a rushed twist. Her laptop bag was already slung over her shoulder like she couldn't wait to leave. I grabbed the keys without a word and she followed me out. The silence returned the second the car doors shut. No radio, no small talk, just the hum of the heater and the crunch of tires on salted pavement. A red light caught us a few blocks from her office. I finally broke the silence. "I've been thinking," I said, fingers gripping the steering wheel. "About us." She didn't respond, just kept looking out the passenger window, like the gray skyline might offer her an escape route. "I know things haven't felt right lately," I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. "You come home later. You barely talk. Even when we're in the same room, I feel like we're 100 miles apart." Still nothing. My throat tightened. "Rachel, if something's going on, I need to know. I can handle hard truth. I just can't handle this cold wall." She shifted slightly, eyes locked on the glass. Her breath left a faint fog on the window. I waited, gave her space, gave her time, but she never turned to look at me. She never said a word. When we reached her building, she reached for the door handle before I even put the car in park. "I'll walk you in," I offered. "No need." Her first words of the morning were sharp. Final. She stepped out into the cold, walking briskly toward the entrance without a glance back. I watched her until the glass doors swallowed her up, my heart sitting heavy and unused in my chest. I was still sitting there, fingers limp on the steering wheel, when I noticed someone hovering by the sidewalk. A young woman, mid-20s, maybe, wearing a gray coat and clutching a paper folder like it might explode in her hands. Her eyes flicked nervously between me and the building. She took a step closer to the car, hesitated, then knocked lightly on my window. I rolled it down halfway. "Can I help you?" Her voice was low and rushed. "Are you Rachel Mercer's husband?" My body tensed. "Who's asking?" She looked over her shoulder, then back at me. "My name's Emily. I work in admin, 3rd floor. I don't know how else to say this." She held up the folder, then lowered it again, unsure. "Please, can we talk? Somewhere private. Just lunch. That's all I'm asking." I narrowed my eyes. "Why?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because you don't deserve what's happening behind your back." My pulse kicked up. I stared at her for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. "Okay, name the place." We sat in the back corner of a narrow cafe 2 blocks from Rachel's office. The kind of place people use to hide from the world. Low music. Steamed windows. The smell of burnt espresso. Emily wouldn't stop twisting the cardboard sleeve around her cup. I shouldn't be doing this, she whispered for the third time. You don't have to, I said calmly. We can finish our drinks and walk out like this never happened. She shook her head fast. No. If I don't say it now, I won't say it at all. I leaned back slightly. Then start from the beginning. She swallowed. I handle admin support. Schedules. Visitor logs. Sometimes security reviews when IT is out. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the counter. Last Friday, the cameras on the 4th floor glitched. I was asked to check the archived feed. And I asked. And I saw your wife. The words landed clean. No drama. No hesitation. My fingers tightened around the mug. Doing what? Emily unlocked her phone with shaking hands. Before I show you, I need you to promise something. I met her eyes. What? If this blows up, and it will, I can't be the reason. I'll lose my job. I have student loans. I can't afford to be brave. I didn't rush my answer. I won't say your name. That's not enough. I'll protect you, I said. Whatever happens, it won't come back to you. She searched my face like she was testing a bridge for cracks. Then she nodded. She turned the phone toward me. The video was grainy. No sound. Timestamp, 11:42 p.m. Rachel stood near a glass-walled conference room, coat off, hair down. Mitchell stepped into frame, loosened tie, hand already too familiar at her waist. My breath slowed. Emily whispered, "It gets worse." The clip jumped ahead. Rachel laughed, silent but unmistakable. Mitchell pulled her closer. She didn't resist. She leaned in. Then they kissed. Not rushed. Not accidental. Practiced. I watched without blinking until the screen went dark. The cafe noise rushed back in like a wave. I set the phone down gently. How long? Emily exhaled. I don't know. But this wasn't the first time they were alone that late. I nodded once. You did the right thing. She looked startled. You're not yelling. There's nothing to yell at, I said quietly. It's clear. Her voice cracked. Please don't confront them yet. If they review logs, they'll know someone accessed the feed. I won't, I said. Not today. She let out a shaky breath. Thank you. I stood, pulling on my coat. If anyone asks, you never met me. She nodded quickly. And you? I paused. I'll take care of it. Outside, the air felt sharper. Cleaner. My hands were steady. My heart was not. But beneath the shock, beneath the quiet rage, something else settled in. Clarity. That evening, the snow started again, soft and quiet. The kind that made the neighborhood feel like a postcard, not a battlefield. I pulled into the driveway just after 7. Her car was already there. Lights on. House warm. From the outside, everything looked fine. Peaceful. Inside, she was humming. I found her in the kitchen, pouring 2 glasses of wine. She looked up like nothing was wrong in the world. There you are, Rachel said with a smile, walking over with a glass held out like a peace offering. Rough day. I took the glass, but didn't sip. Could say that. She tilted her head. You okay? Are you? Her smile twitched for a second. Better than I've been in weeks, actually. She reached out, touching my arm lightly. I was thinking we could watch something tonight. Maybe start that new show you kept talking about. I took a half step back. She froze. What was that? Her voice dropped. What? That? Her hand hovered where my arm used to be. You pulled away. I didn't mean to, I said quietly. Her eyebrows shot up. Daniel, seriously? You've been acting strange for days. First the anniversary, now this? You were 2 hours late for that anniversary. And I explained why. You didn't apologize. She scoffed, setting her wine down hard enough to clink. So we're back to that now. We never left it. Her arms folded tight across her chest. You've been distant. Cold. Since that night. I nodded slowly. I have. Why? There it was. My heart pounded. The video played again in the back of my mind, frame by frame. But I swallowed it all down. I've just had a lot on my mind, I said, voice even. Things don't feel right. Rachel stepped closer, her tone sharp now. No, don't do that. Don't talk in riddles. Say what you mean. I met her eyes. I don't think I recognize what this marriage is anymore. You're blaming me? I'm telling you how I feel. You're accusing me of something. I raised my voice slightly. I'm not accusing you of anything, yet. She froze. What's that supposed to mean? Exactly what it sounds like. Her jaw clenched, breath catching. If you have something to say it, Daniel. I stared at her and said nothing. She laughed bitterly, turned on her heel, and stormed down the hallway. "You don't get to do this," she yelled over her shoulder. "You don't get to act like the victim when you won't even tell me what's wrong." I stayed planted in place. "I'm not acting," I said just loud enough. The bedroom door slammed. I stood there in the hallway for a long minute, the taste of that moment still bitter on my tongue. Then I grabbed the old throw blanket from the closet, laid it out on the couch, and sat down. I didn't sleep. Not even a minute. I just stared at the ceiling, the house silent except for the wind and the faint hum of the fridge. Because now I had proof. Now it was real. But if Rachel wanted to play games in shadows, she wasn't ready for what I was preparing to do next. Friday afternoon, I took an early lunch and drove across town to a part of Denver that hadn't changed much in 20 years. Quiet streets, creaky traffic lights, and red brick buildings with brass plaques that hadn't seen polish since the early 2000s. I parked in front of a small law office tucked between a barber shop and an insurance firm. The sign read, Harris & Wren, LLP. No flash, no marble, just a plain door and a name I trusted. Harris had been my father's attorney before he retired. A calm, soft-voiced man in his 60s who still wrote things down on yellow legal pads and carried the kind of authority that didn't need raising his voice. He looked up as I walked in, and his face softened with something like concern. "Daniel Mercer," he said, standing to shake my hand. "It's been years. What brings you in?" I sat across from him, heart steady. Something I didn't see coming. He nodded. That's usually how it goes. The office smelled faintly of old leather and coffee. A wall of books towered behind him. Real books, not just decoration. "I need to ask questions," I said. "But nothing leaves this room." He didn't blink. "Client confidentiality. Always." I pulled out my phone, opened the folder Emily had sent me, and slid it across the desk. He watched in silence as the grainy clip played. Rachel, late at night, Mitchell's hand on her hip, then lower, the kiss. When it ended, he looked up and asked, "Is this time stamped?" "Yes. Night of the audit." She told me she was working late. "And the man in the video?" "Mitchell Carter, Rachel's boss, and her sister's husband." Harris whistled under his breath. "That's a grenade. What do you want to do with it?" I leaned forward. "I want out Harris. But not like this. I don't want a public scandal. I don't want tabloids. I want my dignity intact, and I want the truth to matter." He tapped his pen twice against the pad. "You want a clean exit. No screaming. No spectacle." "That's right." He scribbled a few notes, then looked back at me. "There's a path, but it starts with one move. Send this video to the company's shareholders. Not HR. Not Mitchell. Not your wife. Go over their heads. Quietly. The board can trigger a formal investigation, and from there, policy takes over. And Rachel, if she's involved, she'll be forced to resign. Mitchell, too, especially if there's proof of favoritism or misuse of authority." I nodded. "And the woman who gave me the footage, her name's Emily. She's just an admin. She wasn't supposed to see it. She risked everything by telling me." Harris looked at me closely. "You want her protected? She's not a pawn in this. She did the right thing. That has to mean something." "I can add a provision," he said. "If shareholders act on the video, I'll insert a clause. No internal retaliation against whistleblowers." "Good." He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "You're calm, Daniel. Most men in your shoes want fire and blood." "I'm not most men," I said. "I want truth, not revenge." Harris smiled faintly. "Your father would have liked that answer." I didn't respond, just stared at the stack of documents he was already preparing. A weight started to shift in my chest. Not gone, but moving. "So what happens now?" I asked. "I draw up a formal statement. We send the evidence, anonymous if you'd prefer, to the shareholder committee. Once it's filed, it's out of your hands. And Rachel, she'll find out soon enough." I nodded, stood, and shook his hand. "Make sure Emily stays safe," I said. Harris met my eyes squarely. "You have my word." I left the office with the snow beginning to fall again, quiet and deliberate. The world looked the same, but something had shifted. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was steering. Saturday morning brought a strange kind of stillness to the house. Rachel had left the night before for a 2-day strategy meeting in Chicago. I didn't ask for details. She didn't offer any, and that was just fine with me. For the first time in weeks, I poured coffee in silence. No tension boiling under the surface, No glances across the table that carried hidden meanings. Just the sound of a spoon clinking gently against a ceramic mug. I was halfway through my second cup when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Amanda, Rachel's sister, standing on the porch in her usual joggers and windbreaker, her blonde hair pulled into a tight ponytail that always seemed 1 hour overdue for a retouch. She wasn't smiling. "Hey, Amanda," I said, holding the door open. "Wasn't expecting you." She stepped in without waiting for an invite. Clearly, I closed the door behind her as she marched toward the kitchen like she still lived there. "I called Rachel last night," she said, spinning around to face me. She sounded exhausted. "You didn't even drive her to the airport?" "She took a cab." Amanda narrowed her eyes. "You've been distant. Cold. For weeks." "She's mentioned it." I took a long sip of my coffee and didn't say a word. She planted a hand on her hip. "What's going on with you two?" I set the mug down gently on the table and looked up at her. "You haven't heard the news about your husband yet." That stopped her cold. Her face paled instantly, as if I'd flipped a switch that drained every ounce of color from her skin. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed again. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't change my expression. "Maybe sit down." "No," she snapped. "Just tell me." I leaned forward slightly. "Amanda, you need to prepare yourself. What's coming isn't just between Rachel and me. And if you go digging too fast, you're going to learn it the hard way." She instinctively pulled out her phone, fingers trembling as she opened her messages. "Amanda," I said, voice steady. "Don't. Not yet." Her hand froze above the screen. "There's a process in motion. People you care about are going to fall hard. And I don't want you getting crushed by the collapse." She blinked rapidly, lips trembling. "This is about Mitchell, isn't it?" I said nothing. That silence told her everything. Her hand slowly dropped to her side. She didn't sit down. Didn't cry. Just stood there in my kitchen, staring through me like I'd just opened a door she never wanted to look behind. "I need to go," she whispered. "Amanda, I need to be alone right now." I walked her to the door. As she stepped outside, I offered one final word. "Wait before you act. Trust me, you'll want the whole truth." She gave a hollow nod, then walked down the driveway without looking back. She came back on Sunday evening with a suitcase rolling behind her and the scent of hotel shampoo clinging to her hair. I heard her pull up while I was chopping onions in the kitchen. The lights were low, jazz humming in the background. Something mellow, something I didn't have to think about. I didn't go to the door. I didn't have to. The lock clicked open, followed by the familiar shuffle of heels and the rhythmic drag of her luggage wheels on the hardwood. "Daniel," Rachel called out, her voice light, almost giddy. "In here," I said, not turning from the cutting board. She stepped into the kitchen like she was returning from a dream, cheeks a little flushed, hair curled just enough to make it look like she hadn't tried too hard. She wore a camel coat over a cream blouse and black slacks, and she looked polished. "I swear," she said with a breathy laugh, "if I see another PowerPoint slide, I might commit a felony." I said nothing, just placed the knife down and wiped my hands on the towel. She leaned against the doorframe and smiled. "Chicago was freezing. But the hotel? Amazing. You should have seen the view. I took pictures. I'll show you." I turned then, slow and steady, and met her eyes. She faltered. "Daniel?" she asked, blinking. "What's wrong?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. She tilted her head slightly, trying to read my expression. "Are you okay?" I unlocked the phone, scrolled to the folder Emily had sent, and tapped the clip. I held it up without a word. She stepped forward, confused. And then she saw it. The moment her own face appeared on the screen, grainy but unmistakable, her body froze like she'd walked into ice water. The conference room. The timestamp. The look on her face as Mitchell's hands found her waist. And then the kiss. Her breath left her in a quiet gasp. I didn't say a thing. I didn't blink. The clip ended. Rachel stared at the dark phone screen like it might come back to life and save her. Her voice was barely audible. Where did you get that?" Still silent, I set the phone down on the counter. She took a step forward. "Daniel, please. I can explain." I looked at her, really looked, and something surprising happened. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel panic or heartbreak. I felt peace. Like the moment you finally name the illness that's been dragging you down. A calm that comes not from comfort, but from clarity. She stepped toward me again, her eyes wide, glossy. "Say something." I turned and walked to the back door. Daniel, wait, but I didn't. I stepped outside, onto the back porch, and let the winter air hit me square in the chest. It was snowing again. Light, soft flakes drifting down like feathers. The yard was covered in white, untouched. Behind me, through the sliding door, I could hear her start to cry. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, breathless sobs of someone who'd just watched the foundation crack under her feet. I leaned on the railing, breathing in the cold until it burned. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I didn't feel stuck. I felt still. Rachel was inside falling apart, but I was outside, finally beginning to rebuild. I didn't wait. Not until morning. Not until tempers cooled or explanations were rehearsed. I left Rachel sobbing in the living room and drove straight to Amanda and Mitchell's house. The cold outside couldn't touch what was already burning beneath my skin. Their place sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac in Greenwood Village. Porch light on. Curtains drawn. A home that, to anyone else, looked calm and ordinary. But I knew better. I didn't knock. I walked straight up the path and opened the door. Inside, the chaos had already started. I heard shouting echoing down the hall. Sharp. Ugly. Don't you dare flip this on me. Amanda screamed. You think I planned this? You think I wanted your sister hanging around every late night like some? There was a crash. Something ceramic shattered. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. Mitchell appeared first, storming out of the hallway like a bull with nowhere to charge. His shirt was wrinkled, face red, hair a mess. His eyes locked on me like a target. What the? You think you can just walk in here? He barked, storming toward me. I didn't flinch. You and I need to talk. He didn't stop. Get out of my house. I stood my ground. Not until Amanda hears this from both of us. That's when he lost it. Mitchell lunged, shoving me hard. You think you're the victim? You've been snooping around like a little. I shoved him back, square in the chest. He stumbled into the wall behind him, caught himself, and lunged again. But this time Amanda was between us, both hands on his chest, her voice cracked and trembling. Stop it. Both of you. Stop. He backed off, chest heaving. Amanda turned to me, eyes wild. What is going on? I looked her in the eye. Rachel confessed. She went still. Everything, I said. The nights at the office. The meetings that weren't meetings. The video. Amanda's knees gave out before she could make it to the couch. She collapsed onto the armrest, one hand to her mouth. Her voice came out broken. A video? I nodded. Surveillance. They weren't careful. She didn't cry, not at first. She just sat there, blinking, breathing like each breath might choke her. Behind us, Mitchell stood still, jaw tight, trying to recover some sense of control. I didn't mean for it to happen, he muttered. It wasn't serious. Amanda finally turned her head toward him. Not screaming, not crying, just one word. Quiet. Out. He blinked. Amanda. She stood, trembling but upright. Get out of this house. Right now. Mitchell looked at me, then back at her. This is still my house. Her voice dropped an octave. Then I'll leave. But I'm not staying under the same roof as a man who used my sister to escape his own failures. He stared for another long second, then grabbed his keys and stormed out the front door, slamming it behind him. Amanda stood still for a moment, then crumpled back onto the couch like her legs had given out for good. I moved to the kitchen and poured her a glass of water. She didn't take it, just stared at the carpet. This whole time, she whispered, I thought the tension between you two was about you, about the marriage slipping, or distance, or whatever. But it was us. It was here. I sat down across from her. She finally looked up, tears now tracing clean lines down her cheeks. Thank you, she said, for not letting me stay blind. I nodded slowly. I didn't want you to find out this way. She gave a hollow laugh. There's no good way. We sat there for a while, two people who hadn't asked for the destruction, but were left sorting through the pieces anyway. It was past midnight when she finally stood and grabbed an extra pillow from the hallway closet. You're not driving home tonight, she said, gently but firmly. Guest room's clean. I didn't argue. I was too tired to explain why the thought of going home made my chest feel heavier. Amanda paused before walking down the hall. Everything's changed, hasn't it? Yeah, I said quietly. But maybe that's not a bad thing. She nodded, wiped her face, and disappeared into the dark. I lay awake for a long time in the guest room, listening to the wind push against the windows. The house creaked like it was adjusting to a truth that had been hidden too long. And for the first time in this whole mess, I didn't feel like the broken one. I felt like the one still standing. By Monday morning, the storm had names. Emails flew like arrows. Internal memos swept through Everson and Carter Capital like wildfire. The board had reviewed the footage. The shareholders had voted. Mitchell Carter, terminated for breach of conduct, pending investigation for misuse of company resources. Rachel Mercer, dismissed for policy violations, conflict of interest, and failure to disclose inappropriate relations with a senior executive. It was official, fast, brutal. The firm moved quickly, not for morality, but for optics. By Tuesday, an external audit was underway. By Wednesday, my lawyer filed the divorce petition. No press, no drama, just sharp signatures on formal pages. Everything quiet and legal, the way I wanted. Rachel didn't fight it. She signed the papers with the same tired, vacant stare I'd seen that night in the kitchen after I showed her the video. We didn't speak during the first hearing. She barely looked at me. Amanda, now living with her parents, texted me a simple, "Thank you again." Some truths hurt, but lies rot everything. I showed up to every court date with calm precision. Dressed neat. Spoke only when needed. I didn't gloat. I didn't break. And for a brief moment, I thought the worst was behind me. Then, on Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Emily. It had been days since we last spoke. I'd told Harris to protect her. He assured me the clause was locked in. I trusted that. But the message stopped me cold. They let me go? No reason given. Just downsizing. I know what this really is. My chest went tight. I read it twice. Then again. I was in the middle of a meeting when it came through, but I stood up and walked out without a word. Found an empty hallway, leaned against the wall. Stared at the screen. Emily. The one person who didn't lie. Who risked everything to give me the truth. Cut loose. I clenched the phone in my hand until my knuckles went white. They got rid of her. Quietly. Cleanly. Cowards in tailored suits. Pulling levers in glass offices. All that talk about internal protection meant nothing. The war was over, but they still found someone to punish. And this time, it wasn't me. It was her. I sat at my desk in the new office, a clean space with floor-to-ceiling windows and a coffee machine that worked better than it should. The city outside was quiet, coated in a thin layer of snow. But inside, my thoughts wouldn't settle. I'd stared at the same spreadsheet for 20 minutes, eyes scanning rows of numbers I couldn't feel. The hum of soft conversation, the tapping of keys, it all blurred into the background. Emily's message sat open on my phone, her words as clear as when I first read them. They let me go. No reason given. My stomach twisted again. She had no union, no shield, no scandal behind her name. Just silence from management and a locked security badge. And me? I had a new job. A fresh start. A title with more weight and a corner office with a view. But none of it felt right knowing she was out there. Cut loose for doing the one honest thing in a room full of liars. I stood up and left the office. Down the hall, I found Marcus, my new supervisor, sharp suit, but real eyes. Got a minute? I asked. He looked up from his monitor. For you? Always. What's up? I sat across from him and didn't waste time. I need to make a hire. Junior admin level. Someone with real backbone. He raised an eyebrow. Anyone in particular? I nodded. Her name's Emily Lake. Early 20s. She worked for my wife's old firm. She saw something she shouldn't have, and instead of burying it, she did the right thing. Marcus leaned back, listening. She lost her job for that. I continued. No formal charges. No HR review. Just erased. What position exactly are you looking to fill? He asked. Anything that gives her a desk, a badge, and a shot. He smiled faintly. That's easy. Consider it done. If she's got your trust, that's good enough for me. I nodded, stood, and extended a hand. Thank you. Glad to be part of the repair, he said. Back at my desk, I typed out the message slowly, carefully. Start Monday. You have a place here. I stared at it for a second, then hit send. Across the city, I hoped she felt it. That at least one person saw her, respected her, and would fight for her, like she'd quietly done for me. Outside the window, snow had begun falling again, slow, deliberate flakes dancing down between the rooftops. The city moved beneath it, unchanged. But I was not the same man I'd been even a month ago. I didn't burn anything down. I didn't scream. I didn't get even. I just told the truth. Protected who deserved it. Let the rest fall. There's a kind of strength in that. Not the loud kind. The quiet, rooted kind. The kind that stays. And as I watched the snow blanket the world outside, I realized something simple and certain. They tried to twist me into something bitter, but I never let them. And that's why I won. And that was the end of my story. Emily took a risk most people wouldn't. She stepped forward when staying silent would have been safer. She did it for me, a man she barely knew. If you were in her shoes, would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. And if this story hit something in you, make sure to like and subscribe. I've got more to share.